Our favorite devil hunting pervert is back on our screens, and yes, I mean Denji, and yes, of course I mean Chainsaw Man. The Chainsaw Man movie is currently airing in select cinemas worldwide, and in fact will likely be out on Crunchyroll very, very soon. If you've not had a chance to go see it in cinemas, I urge you immediately to make sure that you are gearing up to watch it at home, because I went to the cinema and it was absolutely incredible. Denji is back in full force, as expected, picking up from where the last series ended up, to tell a story that, while if you like Chainsaw Man, I'm sure you're going to love, but if you're here just for the action set pieces, I've got some bad news for you. This film is much slower paced, much more insular, and definitely centered around Denji, and pretty much only Denji and the character Rise. If you are a fan of any of the other characters, such as Power or Kabeni, well, I've got some awful news for you. I think Meowie gets more screen time than Power does for the entire film, which I mean, more cat content. I'm in. Well, the film obviously still touches on the fact that the devils are still adamant that they want to get Denji's heart. The film itself predominantly is this tragic love story between Denji and Rise. And while it's a tragic love story, because what else would the mangaka of Chainsaw Man be able to actually replicate? It seems like that is entire bread and butter, is that relishing in that. But so many of the characters are sidelined, as opposed to what we would have probably necessarily expected, seeing a little bit more of them, even though the arc necessarily is, in the manga, very much following on of Denji and Rise. But if you're not familiar with that arc, then obviously you are going to be slightly disappointed that you're not going to see your favourite characters necessarily on the big screen. Between the music, between the animation, while it's a slow burn, particularly that first half, it's a very, very slow burn as Denji meets Rise and they have this budding relationship. It's so gross, and you find yourself so attached watching their small moments, and you get to really see the character development of Denji expand. And we remember that he's not just this effectively superhuman, immortal demon hunter. He's still a teenager, he's still a kid. He's a kid who didn't get to experience so much stuff because of the fact his father put him in so much intense debt that he spent all his childhood and most of his teenage years actively trying to get out of debt. So he missed out on so many small things. And that's what this arc seems to really focus on. Kind of humanizing Denji to the point that you remember, oh my god, yeah, no. Even the most basic things, he just missed out on. That's why he's so primal. That's why all he's after is food and bed and boobs. Lots of boobs. A significant amount of boobs. And yeah, look, Denji throughout this still basically thinks with his penis on most occasions. He really, really does just be the horniest character in anime right now. And honestly, I feel that that is quite a title to bear, but somehow Denji manages to be the most human of any of the pervy characters. Not being overly zealous, but also somehow being what a typical teenage boy would be like, but somehow in a way that doesn't come across as creepy. And that is a fine line that I think only one mangaka has managed to do, and it's this one. Fact. But if we were to go into the story itself, now if the action set pieces are pretty much predominantly at the end, and you get introduced to so many interesting characters, while there is a subplot with Aki and the Angel Devil, that is interesting to see this kind of weird relationship with Aki, the demon-hating devil hunter, and this devil that just wants to die, but is forced to keep on living. And Aki's sacrifice throughout that as he comes to terms with his own hatreds. But again, that's the only major subplot we get in the film. It's Aki and the Angel. And it's a really interesting subplot, but it doesn't necessarily do much more than that. The story is about Denji. I won't necessarily spoil too much of the plot. If you want to be spoiled, go look up some manga spoilers or literally Google the plot of the film now. It's out there. I'm assure you it's out there. But the action set pieces are phenomenal. I really did enjoy them. The fact that some of the action set pieces had poses that it felt like we were supposed to clap towards. And the art style was reminiscent of literally the manga volume covers. And I'll be honest, the art style, they really did translate so well into the big screen, and it was so, so cool. The only problem I really had throughout my entire viewing experience was it was apparent they had... I watched the dub, because I'm dyslexic. It's been really difficult for me to watch the sub, especially with all the moving action. So I watched the dub. I'll admit this, I watched the dub. I'm a dub enjoyer and, unapologetic. The dubs had closed captioning on for the whole thing. And it must have been direct script from the subbed version, because it did not match one bit. It was so far removed that I just was like, this is just distracting. But I think this is a problem that a lot of anime suffer from on Crunchyroll anyway. So it's not a new thing. 100%, but it still was a great thing. The set pieces were amazing. Beam as a character was really cool. I loved his powers and getting to see him, even if he was just a really loud and obsessed with Denji to no end. But I won't hesitate to admit I felt tears in my eyes as this tragic love story unfolded at different points, as it just became apparent that we weren't necessarily going to get that happy ending as much as Denji wanted it. And that's about the most I'll give you as a spoiler, is I think particularly with the cinema experience, the emotion, the pace, it was so well done. And look, let's be real, this was an arc that I don't think could have been done in TV. And if they did, it would have been very hard, because the nature of how it worked and its pace, it was so much slower in its pace. But it culminated in this massive, big set piece that I feel like wouldn't necessarily translate to a weekly episodic run that would have easily stretched, because it was 100 minutes long. So that would have been easily 5 episodes, if not more. The pace worked so nice. The animation smoothed so brilliantly, and the score made it so, so intense. I could feel the emotion. And look, let's be real. Kickback will always be the true opening of Chainsaw Man. I don't think anyone can get anything else out of it. Kickback is the true Chainsaw Man opening, fact. And while, again, it was the same composer, the same artist who performed the opening for the film, it's still good. I definitely think Kickback is better, and Kickback will definitely live on longer. But, that's my taste. Overall, I think it's a great film. If you love Chainsaw Man, you've not had a chance to go see it in the cinemas, make sure you get a chance to catch it on Crunchyroll the minute it comes out. I'll leave you there. I don't usually do anime content, but I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to waffle about Chainsaw Man for like 10 minutes.